Hello and welcome to another video on business studies for GCSE, IGCSE, and GCE O levels. Right, this is the second video of the series. We are still on unit 1, which is organization, business organizations and objectives. Of that, second topic is about business objectives. Objectives are like the goals of businesses and why do businesses setting up. Okay. So now, first of all, most businesses, of course, there are some businesses, some businessmen, they just set up a business without, having a proper vision or dream or a name. Just because someone else is, running a business, this person also may be running a business. But that's not something right. That's not going to lead us, in the right path. So it's always better to have a dream or a vision or an aim, right? So an aim means the dream or the vision of a business where the business wants to be in the long run. One day we want to be here. One day we want to be there. That's what we mean by an aim. For example, let's say there is a business which started a new TV station, let's say. So their aim is that we want to be the #1 TV station or best TV station in the UK, to be the #1 provider of financial services, and so on. So these are some examples of aim. Now, aim is not something that's about to happen, in the near future, because we can't become the #1 TV station in the UK just within a days or months or something like that. It would take time. So that also means that you cannot go to the aim at once. So to achieve the aim, let's say, for example, a soccer team, a football team it wants to be the best team in the Europe. So how can it become the best team in the Europe is, one, it first will have to, take part in maybe the Premier League or whatever, and then try to win the matches and go to the finals and win the finals. So these going into different matches first is what we call objectives. So what are objectives is, these are goals that a business has in order, goals or targets, so that once the business receives or achieves these goals and targets, the business can go through to aims, right? So in that case, objectives are a medium-term tools which helps to achieve the long-term aim. For example, let's say if we are to become the #1, bank in the Europe, let's say, we may want to okay, we want to achieve sales of 10 million euros in European markets in 2012. Something like that. If this was set up in somewhere in, let's say, 2010, we are already in 2023, end of 2023. So let's say we can, change this to the dates, but that doesn't matter here as an example. Okay. We want to open 5 branches every year from 2014. Right. So this is another objective. That means year by year, we want to open 5 branches so that, after a given number of years, maybe 20 years or so, we will have maybe 50 branches around the world, something like that. Okay. All right. Strategies now. Now, first we spoke about aim, which is the long-term vision of a business, the dream of a business, and objectives is the other tools or the goals, that a business sets so that it will help them to achieve the aim. And strategy means these are day-to-day business tactics. Now, see, aim is a long-term and objectives are medium-term. And strategy is a short-term. Now, let's say, for example, when we wanted to kind of, increase sales by 10 million euros every year in the European markets, but we cannot wait until the end of 2012 to achieve this. We'll have to do things on daily basis, like we need to carry out promotional activities, changes in prices, advertising. So these are day-to-day strategies or tactics we use to achieve the aim. And then we come to another thing called the mission statement. As it says, this is actually a statement, most popularly just a paragraph that a business will set up in its business plan, where it will list down its main aim and a few objectives of the business. And normally, a successful mission statement will also talk about at least four of its stakeholders, like what the business wants to do and how it wants to tackle or treat its employees, managers, customers, and the owners or the business like that. So everybody can understand that this is what the business wants to achieve through a proper mission statement. All right, now, although we discussed about a mission statement, aim, objectives, and strategies, one of the most popularly tested item out of these is the objectives. Because objectives are the most medium term ones, these are the goals or the targets. Now, objectives are very clearly defined target. That means we can't just have vague objectives. We need to explain this is what we want to achieve. They have to be, clear. There should be a clarity there. Because then what happens is, once we have a clear cut target, then this will, help the employees to understand what they are supposed to do. So that way, the workers will be motivated because they know that, we are not just asking the workers, okay, just do this. I mean, without proper guidance, but objectives act as a guidance. One of the benefit of having clearly defined objectives is that is, objectives provide guidance to the business itself. That means business owners, businesses, workers. So when you are giving like some preset goals, because objectives are preset goals to workers, that would motivate the workers. Okay, you are supposed to achieve this by the end of the year. So workers know they have a target to achieve. When targets are set, that motivates the workers. And also, objectives motivate the owners. Now, for example, one of the popular business objective is to make profit or high levels of profit. And this is an objective which is about to motivate the owners of the business to work hard for the business. And finally, objectives also help to measure the performance of the business, because generally we will discuss in a next slide maybe. There are about 5 different characteristics that an objective should have. One is it should be measurable. That means we need to have a certain target in numbers or in value or something like that. So by the end of that target period, we will be able to measure, check whether we have achieved the target that we had planned about. Right. Characteristics of objectives. Right. As I said, there are a few to be, specific. There are 5 different types of, characteristics of objectives. Objectives will have to be specific. Although I have written a lot here, simply it tries to mean objectives must be clear, cut, and it must say, okay, this is what supposed to do. For example, a hotel might have an objective of filling at least 60% of the beds during the month of October, for example, right? So objective has to be specific to the business, and it must be measurable. That means it must have been given a deadline by date or by an amount like that. Increase sales, rather than just saying increase sales by £10,000. That gives a measurable ability. Objectives must be achievable. That means achievable with the currently available resources. We have to set what's there with us. Okay, with these resources, we can achieve this. Those are the ones we need to set as objectives. Objectives must be realistic. That means objective should not be something impossible. We should never set something that is impossible as objectives, right? And objectives must be time specific. If you have seen the previous examples that I have given, objectives that I have given are all like, um, within a given period, in 1 year, every year, like that. Because then only we can measure whether we have achieved the objective at that particular period end. Otherwise, we don't know when to measure. We won't know whether we have become successful if it was going to take years. Right, okay. So now we will look at some examples of different types of objectives that as a business, any business can have. One of the, most common and almost the first sort of objective to many businesses is this. What's that? Survival. So what do we mean by survival? Survival means to survive, but not to be driven out of the market, to remain in the market. Now, this is an objective which is very popular for new businesses. When a new business first starts, it won't have that many customers, and most people wouldn't even know about this business. So when people don't know who is going to come to buy from this business. So in such situation, what will happen is the business will have a doubt whether the business can carry on and continue to exist or not. So that time we need to set an objective of survival. That means no matter what, but we need to somehow stay in the market, because once we get driven out, maybe coming back again is not going to be that easy. Right? So that's why we set up survival as an objective. And once again, when you say survival, which means we are not going to kind of, have an objective of profit, like profit maximizing or something like that. Because we think here, more than profit, we just need to stay in the market somehow. And so, as I said, this is important for completely new businesses, or this is also important for businesses at a time of economic crisis. Now, let's say, for example, during the time of pandemic, if the businesses were thinking of, no, we need to make a lot of profit and we are not going to bring the prices down and we are going to sell at this high price, most businesses would have, broken down at the time, closed down, because, people were also having difficulties in paying for goods and services. So in such situation, businesses may consider selling at a low price to stay in the market. And this is one of the objectives of business. Next, we have profit maximization. This is an objective of owners and shareholders, and they always want to have not just profit, but the maximum possible profit. That is what we mean by profit maximization. Sales growth. Sometimes the management, because most of the time the management, like sales or marketing manager, marketing sales directors, they are given commission according to the number of units sold. So such people may set up an objective of increasing the sales, regardless of what's the price and all that. Sales growth. So sales growth is an objective which tries to achieve the maximum sales as possible. So mainly the, sales kind of management, such staff would have that. And a business can also have another objective called good image or reputation. Why image or reputation? Because image is good or the business reputation is good means the business will be able to, retain its customers to purchase again and again. And it can, achieve a loyal set of customers who will stay with the business, right? So, and that also can make sure that business will survive in the long run. So these are some of the reasons why some businesses set business, one of the business objective called image, good image or reputation. Ethical and social responsibility, right? What's that is? Ethics means differentiating between what is good and what is bad, and to involve in good and avoiding bad. Okay. So some businesses, they set up their objectives to do the good and avoid the bad, helping, sometimes it can be like a social responsibility. We try to help the less fortunate by, providing them goods at a cheaper price and all that. Body Shop has the kind of objectives like that, being socially responsible. And also, the objectives of some businesses may differ if they are like government run businesses. That's what we mean by public sector corporations. They are not normally for profit, and also they kind of, try to involve in public welfare, like, you know, cheap and accessible transport services given by the public buses and public trains, right? Another example of business objectives is we can take up some businesses or some organizations which are charities and voluntary organizations. Their aims and objectives are led by their belief. This is what we want to do. We want to help the, local soccer players, maybe something like that. So that's their belief, and their all their objectives will be designed based on their belief. Okay, right. So these are, for example, some examples like, helping the sports skills of the local students or youth, helping a village affected by tsunami, and so on. All right. Okay. Now, what happens is when a business sets objectives, some objectives may be difficult to achieve with the other objectives. So there will be a conflict between objectives. For example, growth versus profit. Now, if you want to achieve growth within your business, what happens is you will have to maybe reduce the price so that sales can increase. But when you reduce the price, what will happen is profit will decrease. So sales and profit conflict. Image versus profits. Now, if you want to create or build the image of a business, then you will have to spend a lot of money. When you spend a lot of money, profitability decreases. Of course, in the short run, it will help to increase the profit in the long run. Short versus long-term objectives. Some short-run objectives, short-term objectives, like for example, you want to, increase the cash flow in the short term by maybe reducing the prices, but that's going to actually affect your profitability. Or on the other hand, let's say a business wants to invest a lot of money on new equipment and plants and all that. So that means the business is going to run out of cash because it's spending a lot of money on fixed assets. But that's only for short term, because the long term, the business can achieve growth with such, uh, modern technology and equipment and machines, etc. Right. Now let's see the relationship between objectives. That means sometimes what happens is one objective may help us to achieve another. For example, growth. Now, when a business sets growth as its objective, and let's say it achieves growth, once the business has achieved growth, that means the business has grown to be a big giant, and it won't have the problem of, you know, survival to be something like, questionable, something like suspicious, because they are a large business and it's easy to survive. And profitability, because what happens is a well-grown business mean it will have an established customer base and sales regularly, and also sales will increase. So profitability of the business can increase because of that too. Profit, that means when a business sets profit as its objective, once the business makes good amount of profits, those extra profits can be reinvested into the business and they can achieve growth. So this is how profit helps to achieve other objectives. And image or reputation, a good image, a good brand will help the business to create customer loyalty and these customers will start purchasing again and again, and that's going to further on lead to more profits, and those more profits can be reinvested to growth of the business, right? So that's how the objectives can be interrelated to each other. Now let's look at changing business objectives. What do we mean by this is actually the businesses aren't going to have the same objectives always. Sometimes the business may have one objective and with time they change to another, right? This can happen due to this reason. That is, one is we've already achieved one of the objectives, so we will move to another. For example, we were a new business, our objective was just survival. Now we have established our survival, established ourselves in the market, so we want to move to making profits. And once we have made kind of enough profit, we may reinvest that profit to achieve growth and so on, one after the other. Second, the competitive environment might have changed. Now, let's say, for example, when we were the first to launch a product in the market, we didn't have many competitors. So we were able to charge a very high price and highly profitable. But with time, let's say, more and more competitors enter the market. So here, rather than, thinking of profitability, we might think of survival. Changes in technological changes leading to changes in product design and various other things in a business environment to change. So as a business we will also have to change our objectives and targets, right? So those are some of the examples of why business objectives may change, right? And next we come to a business plan. Now what happens is a business which starts itself form early, because there are some people they just like jump, like falling from the sky. Their businesses may also fall from the sky all of a sudden. But if you're going to start a business properly, then you will have to have a proper business plan. So the business plan will tell you what you are going to do and tell your competitors and tell your customers and investors, all of them. When you have a well-planned business, this will make it easy for you to be able to borrow money from banks and or to get other people to invest in your business. So what is there in a business is it will have these few things. The aims and objectives can be given as a statement, for example the mission statement, and you describe what is the market that you're going to be in, what kind of products that you're going to sell, who are your competitors, and how can you react to them, or how can they react to you, and your forecasted sales, production, all that, and what sort of equipment you would need, and what is your plan to get your product to the targeted customer. So when you put all of these things, you should be able to use the business plan, as I said, to attract investors and so on. Right. Next, we go to another basic economic concept, basic business concept called stakeholders. Right. Who are stakeholders? As the definition says, people who are interested in the activities of a business. So these are people who affect the business and are affected by the business. Okay, what is that? Right. Now, there are all, because we are, as a business, we are surrounded by the environment. And in the environment, there are various different types of people. Some people are invested into the business. Some people buy from our business. Some people supply goods to our business. And some people control the business, like government. So there are some people who can positively or negatively impact the business, people who are living in the area. So like this, there are various different groups of people who are interested in the business in some or other way. And these are people, their actions can affect the business, or businesses' actions can affect them. That's how we have written this definition of stakeholders, right? So who are the stakeholders to a business? It can be owners or shareholders. These are the people who invest in, and so they are affecting the business, and at the same time, they are affected by the business. If the business was successful, they will be receive, dividends and profits. Right. Next, we have managers and employees. Right? People who manage a business, people who work for the business, they also have an objective from the business. They want a better working environment and, you know, good salaries. And at the same time, if they work well, the business is affected well. If they work bad, business will lose its good image and leading to a negative image, right? Customers, one of the most important stakeholders to businesses, right? These are the people who buy from us, and, them to buy from us, we should provide them better quality products. At the same time, when they buy from us, we are affected because our products are getting sold, and it's a very good thing for us. Okay, so that's how customers can be affected by the business, and business can be affected by the customers. Next, suppliers. These are people who provide us raw materials or finished goods that we sell. So we need to have good terms with them if we are to survive. Right. Okay. And banks and financial organizations. These are people or organizations which maintain accounts for us and lend us money, safeguard our money, and so on. Government is very much interested in businesses so that they can charge taxes, but at the same time, governments are also good. At times, they may help businesses by providing subsidies, and grants and so on. Local community, these are people and families living around the business, the area where the business is located. So the local community is the one which sometimes become our customers. It is the one sometimes becomes our employees. So we need to look after them so that we can be benefited from them. And there are other groups called pressure groups. These are organizations which are set up for some objective. They want to achieve something. So sometimes they may oppose our businesses activities, or they may support our business activities if we are kind of an environmentally or human friendly organization, right? Okay, so those are the stakeholders. And next we will see, we just saw one of the stakeholder being the owners or shareholders. So what is the difference or similarity between them, shareholders and stakeholders? Since we already saw shareholders in under the group of stakeholders, so the similarity is that shareholders are also stakeholders. They are one of the people who are interested in the business, but they're just one of the stakeholders. That doesn't mean that all the stakeholders are shareholders. No. So shareholders are people who invest in the business and they have interest in the business, so they are a stakeholder. But stakeholders are people who have an interest in the business. Necessarily, it doesn't mean that they have to invest. So that's the difference between the stakeholders and the shareholders. All right. Now let's talk about conflict of objectives of the stakeholders. For example, shareholders in a business, they want the business to make them as much as or the maximum profit. But when you try to make the maximum profit for the shareholders, what happens is workers we won't be able to look after because the workers want high wages. You can't achieve both high wages and profit because wages is a cost for the business. So if the cost goes up, profits can go down. Or if you want to bring the profit up, then you need to reduce the wages. So there is a conflict. Next, again, we have shareholders versus managers. Shareholders want more profit and managers want to achieve more growth, maybe like growth sales and all that. So here also, both of these cannot work together because if you want to give more profit to the shareholders, you have to hold the growth because growth needs reinvestment. So both of these cannot happen at the same time. So likewise, there are a few examples of conflict of objectives between the stakeholders, right? Next, we come to something called social responsibility. Now, we have already seen that, you know, uh, the businesses have a lot of stakeholders. So the activities of a business can affect all the stakeholders. So when activities of any business can affect its stakeholders, then businesses will have to be very careful, because the business is responsible for its society, its stakeholders. So this is what we mean by social responsibility. That is the duty of a business and its obligations towards the stakeholders. So for example, the duty that a business has towards its stakeholder called shareholders is to give them a good return on their investment. To workers, a business should try to give them a fair pay, a better working environment. To its suppliers, the business is responsible to give them regular businesses and prompt payment. To its customers, the business is responsible to sell goods at an affordable price and high quality products. To the local community, a business should be trying their best to giving jobs for the local community and less disruption to the society and to their life. And to the government, the business is responsible to, by helping the society, by giving jobs to the local community, a business is helping the government. And to the environment, a business is supposed to make sure that it is not polluting the environment as less as possible. Right. We already spoke about something called ethics. So let's see what are those. Ethics means those moral principles, rights and wrongs. So any business decision can be either right or wrong. So when the business is making this decision, the business should make their things which are right and to avoid what is wrong. But the problem is, what's right to one person can be wrong to another. So because this ethics is a judgment, a value judgment by each individual. For example, some examples of ethics can be like reducing pollution through the use of non-fossil fuels, disposal of waste safely to the environment, and sponsoring local charity events like that is also another thing which can be considered as ethics. And fair trading with developing countries, not to exploit the workers in the developing countries by paying them very low wages and salaries and so on. Right. Okay. So with this, we come to the end of the second point, second topic of business organization and objectives, the first unit, that is the objectives. Right. So I'll see you in another business studies video. Until then, take care and goodbye.